Hello everyone, it is I, Veritas, and oh boy, I get a tasty target today. You guys familiar with Nicholas Black? Well, let's just say he's not a particularly based individual. He may drop an epic take once in a blue moon, but overall, I just think he's kinda dumb. And this video from him that I'm going to be responding to may just be his worst take yet. This video being this gem, saying white before bigotry doesn't make it okay. This video fucking sucked, okay? So, let's get into it.
In this case, I'm talking about the, analysis on the internet of whiteness, amongst marginalized groups. At first, it was like a reasonable intersectional analysis of whiteness in groups like women and queer people.
Was? Are you sure about the past tense? Cause from what I've seen on places like Twitter, there isn't enough criticism of white people in marginalized groups. I mean, look at white women. Those bitches have spent the last few months deep-throating some talentless hack with the morality of a putty patroller.
But, and say it with me now, if you give them an inch, they go a mile. As a whole, white leftists included, people have been starting to use the descriptor white as a way to avoid criticism for blatant bigotry. For instance, a white twink will just merely exist on the internet and people think that that's a green light to start saying violent things about exterminating gay men. Ironic homophobia has also gone too far, but that's a different thing for a different day.
Okay, I'll give you the last bit. I don't like ironic homophobia either, but about that earlier example of the white twink getting called homophobic shit, do you really think that people putting white before the homophobia was one of the motives, or maybe it was just the homophobia? Have you considered that?
Second issue, and this is kind of a problem within a problem, folks have a habit of doing their structural analysis of oppression through the lens of one singular oppression. For instance, TERFs and radfems do most of their analysis through the lens of the patriarchy, but have very weak analysis on anything else, whether that be disability, queerness, or race. And it definitely feels like this in this type of situation where to this guy and many other leftists and or liberals, they choose one oppression to do analysis from, and then their analysis on everything else is pretty weak, and they have a hard time understanding that there is separate systemic oppressions that, other people have to endure. White gay people still experience systemic oppression. White disabled people still experience systemic oppression.
Hey, guess what, Nicholas? I don't think people who criticize white people in marginalized communities were ever making that claim. Maybe, just maybe, their real claim was that white people in these marginalized communities are, on average, less likely to experience bigotry due to their whiteness compared to non-white members of the same demographic. After all, is a gay person of color not more likely to be a victim of homophobic hate crimes than a white gay person?
There are many criticisms that you can have of certain behaviors, for sure, but I don't think being a white trans woman is going to keep you from being genocided in the United States.
This is mostly true. Obviously, your average hateful, murderous, individual transphobic redneck may not necessarily favor certain trans people based on skin color, but you do realize that white trans folk are more likely to be assimilationist and therefore be the last ones to be victims of a transphobic society? Have you considered that?
I don't know, hot take, I guess. Number 3, takes like these and ironic bigotry to white people of marginalized groups. These people fail to realize that when you normalize that progressive bigotry, it is eventually going to bleed into intersectional members of that community as well. Like, eventually, not just white gays are going to be the subject of ironic homophobia or shit like that. Like, it's going to bleed into non-white gays eventually as well because you're normalizing homophobia.
Broski, do you really think that non-white gays haven't already been victims of ironic homophobia already? Like, do you realize that non-white queer people already face this shit more than white queers? Which proves an earlier point about how the problem wasn't people, quote, putting white before homophobia, but rather it was the homophobia itself that was always the problem to begin with. But anyway, that's gonna be the end of the commentary. I didn't intend this commentary to be this short, but it is what it is. And since this is the end of the video, it is now time to shout out another person whose content I like. And that lucky person today is the Vulgan. The Vulgan is an SCP YouTuber who reads SCP articles, and he's the best one in the genre. Like, man, does he really put in the effort. Peak SCP content right here. Anyway, that's all for today, and good night.